What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 287 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, and this is the Hot Tags edition of the week, where I'm going to be breaking down some of the current events, rumors, news, gossip, whatever the hell else is going on in the world of professional wrestling from the past few days that I kind of think we should be talking about. Unfortunately, this week is really depressing. All the stories that have been coming out have pretty much been negative, except for one, which I'm going to tack on at the end here, just so we can end on a little bit more of a positive note, which actually we'll be seeing more information about over the next day or so, but I'm recording this on Monday night, so of course there's going to be a little bit of overlap as far as stories go. Hopefully, in the next few days, we're going to get some positive stories that can kind of offset some of the negative things we're going to be talking about here tonight. And I'm not going to be doing a small package or anything unless there's something huge that happens or whatever like that, because we've got a lot of stuff coming up this week. The finals of the Sexy Superstars tournament have been decided essentially by like tomorrow or so. So we got to reveal the winner of that and break down the tournament as a whole. We've got Extreme Rules predictions. We've got Extreme Rules post-show on Sunday night. And I've got to do a little bit of work as far as like figuring out some other stuff for the next couple of weeks and stuff like that. So this week is a little bit of a down low sort of thing on the hot tags, but maybe something will pick up a little bit later on. Nonetheless, let's break down the hot tags we do have to talk about, as negative and depressing as they are. And let's start off with a big one. Why not? There was a social media campaign for a potato chip or crisp, if you are doing the colloquialisms for the UK, called Walkers. And they were doing a big thing where it's like you upload a picture to it and they kind of make you part of the stands in this big, stadium kind of a thing and all that. Well, anytime you do anything like this, people are going to troll. And unfortunately, the people that were trolling, this one decided that they were going to go with pictures of Chris Benoit. So this campaign ended up, of course, being a total train wreck in that sense, because they had to pull all those. They had to stop people from being able to do it, because people are posted a bunch of different things, of course, but Chris Benoit was the one that started to get a lot of attention for wrestling websites and stuff, so that's why we're talking about it here. Otherwise, if it would have just been, people posting a picture of their ass cheeks or something like that, then, I wouldn't have come around to the story like that. But this is the type of thing where, like, the jerk in me that likes trolling and thinks that some of this stuff is funny totally sees the funny part of it, but at the same time, I tend not to think that Chris Benoit stuff is all that funny. So, I don't know. I'm on the fence about this kind of thing. I kind of see where the trolls are coming from, but at the same time, it's like, I think that there would have been better options to troll with than to post a picture of Chris Benoit. But that's my take about the whole thing. I want to know what you guys have to say about this. Drop your comments in the comment section, of course, below, and continue that theme on with the rest of the stories here. Unfortunately, the stories can get worse. And one of these things that we hear every so often, I don't fucking know why, this is something that has to happen as often as it is. A 2-year-old kid was killed because their parents performed a bunch of wrestling moves on her. Richard Gamache and Cheyenne Cook, they were doing what was apparently a Batista bomb on this little kid, Addie Cook, and she hit her head on this concrete wall that was near her bed. And I mean, what the hell, man? Why do we need to have one of these stories every few months? Stop doing fucking wrestling moves on your kids. You can't fucking do that. It is not something to play around with. It's one thing if you're doing it to like a fucking pillow or something like that. Or if you're like doing tricks in a pool where, I used to do that all the time in my fucking pool. I'd be doing elbow drops to my floats and stuff like that. But there's still a level of safety that needs to be applicable. And when you take a 2-year-old kid, you can't roughhouse with the kid. Even a 10-year-old kid, there's the potential that something's going to go wrong. How many stories have we heard of teenagers that, pick one up, their friend up, and they body slam them and they land on their head and they're fucking paralyzed or something like that? The wrestling moves are not meant to be done to untrained professionals, and even the trained professionals get injured every once in a while. They run a fucking advertisement ahead of time telling you, do not do this shit, because you may get hurt or die. And then these people continue to do it. I don't know what the whole situation with these people are. I don't know if they're mentally ill. I don't know if they are like trailer trash jackass type of people, or what, but now they've killed a fucking 2-year-old because they decided it would be fun to do a Batista bomb on her. A 2-year-old kid that has no ability to say whether or not something is safe or not. Fucking idiots, man. I cannot stand hearing so many stories that happen like this. Because it's different if, like, 2 adults are fighting each other over some petty nonsense and they act childish and they both kill each other. Or if, like, a drug addict overdoses and dies. And it's like, you know what? Not every death is as bad as other deaths. But when, like, a drunk driver hits somebody else who wasn't a drunk driver, that sucks, man. And when a little kid has no control over their mom or their dad or whatever, power bombing them, then what the fuck, you know? I just, oh God, I can't stand this kind of stuff. It really, I hate to have to report on that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, you know, we talk about the negatives here and the positive stuff, but that takes us into another negative thing here. Again, I told you ahead of time, this is like, this is a bad fucking week. The terrorist attacks that just recently happened. Well, WWE has decided to cancel their June 4th Manchester live event due to that because of just, you know, it's not really a safe environment going on right now and stuff like that. They've, of course, given everybody a refund. They've given them the ability to, you know, cash that in on a ticket for, like, a live event in the future and such. I think it was, like, an NXT one that they're going to be doing, maybe, like, tapings or something like that, or a live tour or some capacity, I don't know. But, again, terrorism, we can go on a big diatribe about how there's horrible people in this world and stuff like that, but it sucks, and I don't know if WWE necessarily made the right move. If, like, Manchester's that bad of an environment right now with, like, potential terror attacks where, like, it would have been a risk, then yeah, then they did. If this is just kind of preemptively assuming that there's going to be some kind of strike on something, and there might not be, there probably won't be, whatever, it's better safe than sorry, but at the same time, you also can't just sort of say, you know, I'm not going to leave my house in the morning because I might get killed by somebody or whatever. But if they felt the need that they think that they should get rid of that live event on June 4th, then maybe they would actually sort of divert attention away from another kind of terrorist attack. You can never really tell, and unfortunately, this happens so often with either it's like a political terrorist attack or it's some kind of nut job and shooting up a movie theater or something like that, but this stuff happens kind of randomly, and I don't remember the last time anything would have happened in a WWE-related situation, but WWE is a popular thing. It is a big mass grouping of people. And if you were the type of sicko that wanted to do that kind of stuff, that is something that could be problematic. So if they had some kind of intel that said, like, hey, look, we're going to get a dicey period around now, might not be necessarily the best idea for you to run an event there, then by all means, cancel the event, keep everybody safe, have them come back at another time. It's just fucking wrestling, you know what I mean? It sucks for the people that wanted to go to that show. And then, you know, at the same time, it's a live event. Who fucking cares about live events, you know? It'd be different if it was like they canceled WrestleMania. And if we're talking politics, let's talk about Memorial Day. That it was today. So a lot of people very sensitive today about a couple different topics. And some of those people came out in droves to bitch about R-Truth. Goldust tweeted out, hashtag remember the fallen. Actually, it was hashtag remember. He didn't have that second M. A little bit of a typo. But R-Truth replied to that with, remember, I'm gonna get ya. And then everyone lost their shit, saying it was in poor taste, because nowadays if you can claim that you're upset over something, then somebody will undoubtedly want to bitch about it. And look, I will be the first to admit that I'm not the biggest gung-ho support the troops type of person in the world. I, of course, have a certain level of admiration for people who have served in the armed forces, because I respect that they're willing to put their lives on the line for the country that they serve for. But I'm also not one of the people who thinks that just because you spent time in the military, you need to be looked at as a saint. Plenty of horrible people go into the military. And hell, for that matter, I used the word saint a minute ago, and plenty of horrible people go into clergy services. Same goes for cops. Same goes for anything. Lawyers, judges, whatever. Having a job where you're supposed to be an honorable person doesn't mean you necessarily are. And for Memorial Day, I think that it's good. That's a holiday. I think it's great. It means that you, like, are gonna toast the people who gave their lives for us, and that's an amazing thing, and it's something that I don't think anybody should make light of, because that's horrible that people have to die because stupid-ass politicians get into the way and create these fucking problems and stuff like that. But some people need to grow some thicker skin. It's a fucking tweet. And it's not even an offensive one. R-Truth didn't say, we're going to add your name to the list of the dead people to remember for Memorial Day or anything like that. He just said, I'm going to get you. He's kind of like keeping a storyline going on and stuff like that. And like, some people are leaving comments and they're going, this was an out of kayfabe thing and you're fucking taking this into a storyline or whatever. Maybe it's a poor bit of judgment on R-Truth's part to try to, piggyback off of this and make a wrestling thing, but it's a fucking Twitter account. Jesus Christ, everybody. And of course, now that I said Jesus, somebody's going to be out there saying I'm blasphemous and all butthurt and stuff like that. But my opinion about this whole thing is there's bigger, more important things to bitch about in the world than to get all in a tizzy over R-Truth having a slight weird interpretation of a Memorial Day tweet. He thought that it would have been interesting to tweet that out. Maybe he didn't even realize that it was a Memorial Day type thing. Whatever. Move on. Get your hands dirty actually trying to fix some kind of problem that's out there in the world that matters more than this, and then we can talk. That's my point of view about this whole thing. Hopefully there isn't any kind of actual spillover and repercussions that come out of this or something like that. I highly doubt it. I think any reasonable person would just be like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's not that big of a deal. But you never know. You could get some people that are like, they get offended over the littlest thing, and maybe somebody in WWE is going to be like that, and whatever. But speaking of the whole thing with R-Truth and Goldust, I am surprised that that's not announced for the Extreme Rules card. At least right now it isn't. More on that on my Superstars Missing for the Card article. That'll be coming up a little bit later on this week. A little bit of a plug there. Let's talk about some positives. Well, as close to positives as we can get. The drug charges that were against Sean Waltman recently have been dropped. That's good. Apparently he takes some kind of medication for a yeast infection, and it was all much ado about nothing. So when he had said, whenever it was, 3 weeks ago or so, when he said, look, when the news and the information comes out about this, everybody's going to realize that it's not that big of a deal. He was right. So that's great, because we were all skeptical that, whenever somebody who's a former drug addict is in any kind of drug situation and they say I'm not actually using it again and stuff, more often than not, they usually are. And to see that that wasn't the case and that he's actually not doing meth and not a drug dealer and stuff like that, or at least he didn't get caught this time or something, but that is very, very positive. That is a really good thing to hear, because we have watched these members of DX, well, at least Scott Hall and Sean Waltman, go down a really dark path over these couple of years. And now that they are a little bit on the upswing, any kind of negative press that they get that seems like they've fallen off the wagon is very disheartening. So to hear that it was bullshit, all that much better. Let's talk about the Table for 3 episode. That just aired a little bit ago. I was just getting done watching that with Jim Cornette, Eric Bischoff, and Michael P.S. Hayes. Hayes, by the way, totally the mediator between the two. That was the entire purpose for him to be on there. And I don't want to spoil absolutely everything, because I think that people should watch these kind of episodes. I like Table for 3, so I think they're fun and entertaining. This one wasn't as crazy and awesome as I was hoping that it would be. But we got some Vince Russo shots. My most important aspect of this whole thing that I thought was the most interesting, and this is going to be a spoiler, so if you don't want to know, skip forward for a minute or so. They throw out ideas of what they would like to see for building up to the next big match. Essentially, what do they want to do at WrestleMania next year? Cornette throws out the idea of Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe in a submission match, kind of working the idea of, if you've got these two badasses and one of them has to tap, then that's the draw of the whole thing. And I think that that's a great idea. I personally think that Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar is a really good match to do next year, but Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar, that's another one. Bischoff says that he thinks that Roman Reigns is heading towards a really good heel run, and that the money match between him and somebody else, a babyface, would be him against AJ Styles. To me, that's kind of a no. They've already done a feud. We already know what they can kind of give, and I kind of think that maybe AJ Styles is going to turn heel again. I don't really know. But Michael P.S. Hayes effectively wants a tweener Roman Reigns versus a tweener John Cena, and he approaches it from the same philosophy that the WWE has been approaching this, where it's like, yeah, Roman Reigns would make a good heel, but we don't want to lose the kids and the women, so it's the same exact thing as John Cena. And if you put those two together, then you're going to have the kids and the women. Well, I mean, John Cena doesn't get as much hate like that anymore, but let's just say he does. The kids and the women both cheering the same two people all this time. Now they have to make a decision. Who are they going to pick? And then you got the men who tend to be against Roman Reigns and John Cena. They don't have either person that they can root for. So who do they root for? And does that make a match where everybody is cheering everybody is booing everybody, or that they don't know who they want to do, and it's kind of like a mixed response of like, yeah, boo for every punch type of thing? I think that this is very interesting because Jim Cornette has no pull in WWE right now. Neither does Eric Bischoff, but Hayes does. And Hayes had said in this little segment of this that he can kind of like, yeah, that match looks really good and stuff like that. And that he agrees with the idea of the Roman Reigns heel turn concept. And you know, of course, but this isn't like him going, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'm going to talk to Vince tomorrow. But instead of him saying something like, no, I'll tell you why this will never happen, it became more of, yeah, that's totally the opinion that I've got, but this is what we're kind of doing to kind of offset that and whatever. I think that it's very interesting that Hayes didn't say, well, I gotta say that the match that we really want to book for is Lesnar and Reigns. Now, I've been saying for a while now, I do not want Lesnar Reigns at WrestleMania. But if you gave me the Universal Championship is Roman Reigns versus John Cena, that can be very, very interesting. I think that could be the biggest match that they can probably put on at this point. And then if you give us for the WWE Championship, either Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and then you stack the rest of the card with like Lesnar Joe, Lesnar Strowman, something like that, and Styles Nakamura. Or maybe the Styles Nakamura match is for the WWE Championship and we get Orton versus Kevin Owens for, I don't know, maybe the Intercontinental, maybe, or not the Intercontinental, that's United States is on that brand. Maybe they just have like a feud match, I don't know. I think that Reigns and Cena could be a really, really fun match to build towards. So we have a few months to figure that out. And I think we should just pay a little bit of attention to this. But the table for three is something that I think, if I got to say see it or skip it, go ahead and see it. Last thing that we are talking about here is something that is probably going to be announced tomorrow night on SmackDown, or maybe even a little bit beforehand. But now that it's Monday night, we don't have any information about that. So let's speculate anyway. The rumor mill is saying that we are going to get our first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match this year for SmackDown. First impression of this, which I'm sure I'm going to be echoing, is damn it sucks that SmackDown is a single branded entity with the Money in the Bank as opposed to the Money in the Bank being on SummerSlam. I still think that Money in the Bank works better as a match than it does as a pay-per-view. And with the brand split, the pay-per-view effectively hurts this so much that I don't want it to be a pay-per-view anymore. I liked the pay-per-view when it used to be one Raw one and one SmackDown one. I liked the pay-per-view when it was both brands merged together and you had one Money in the Bank. I really would have been much, much more interested in this if we had a women's Money in the Bank ladder match where we had the Raw and the women on SmackDown and we only had one women's title. But we're not going to get that, so we're going to get Naomi versus the winner of the number one contenders match, and then the four other women are going to be in the Money in the Bank match for the women's briefcase, if that is a thing that they actually are going to be doing. They might not be doing it, I don't know. And if they do, another rumor that's going on with this is that they might have a fifth person from NXT. If they do that, this isn't at a point where Asuka can come up, unless they're okay with Asuka either dropping the title to Ember Moon ahead of time, which I don't think the case is going to be, or that she competes for it even though she's the NXT champion. If they have somebody from NXT come up that isn't Asuka, the only thing I can imagine is Peyton Royce and Billie Kay doing that. But maybe this is where Lana gets into the mix. Maybe she's the fifth person. She's not from NXT, but she is somebody who's new to the whole wrestling landscape as far as, like, actually wrestling on the roster. Or maybe they just go with the four of them. If they go with the four with them, then we don't know who those four are yet until we figure out the number one contender. But I would assume, at the very least, that Becky Lynch is probably going to be in there. And I would assume Natalya. I don't really think she's going to win the number one contenders match, but maybe not. Charlotte is a possibility. And then, I don't know, Carmella or Tamina. Maybe Tamina. Random ass guesses. Tomorrow night we'll figure it out. But in the meantime, that is a story that I think is pretty interesting. And I am for a Money in the Bank women's ladder match. I said before that we could have a tag team one too, or an Intercontinental and United States mid-card one. But that's you can't do that now with the brand split. And the women's one, you're pushing it on SmackDown. You're really pushing it with having 4 women in the Money in the Bank ladder match like that. But they could do worse. And even though it could be a lot better if we had the Raw women in the mix too, this isn't the end game as far as you do this one time and then that's it. This is just the first start. So the fact that they are going to have a women's Money in the Bank ladder match at all, if they do decide to do that, then that's good. It's a step in the right direction. So I'm all aboard for that. Hopefully it doesn't suck and then they don't sour on it in the future, because I want this to be a thing. I think that it makes sense. I think that it's the logical next step for the women's division, and it gets a big old thumbs up from me. So those are the hot tags of the week, everybody. Thank you for checking this out. As I mentioned before, leave your comments below. Tell me what you think about all these different stories. If anything else crazy happens throughout the week, I'll try to give my opinions on either the Ask Him, the Rest Hold kind of stuff. Probably not on there. That's more so just like promotional stuff and whatever. But if we can tie it into anything with the Sexy Superstars tournament, we'll try to work that into there. The Extreme Rules pay-per-view predictions, that's going to be coming up this week, so that's going to factor in a little bit here and there. And then the post-show, and then again, of course, if anything super crazy happens, I'll either leave comments below or we'll have other kind of coverage elsewhere where you can get my opinions about that stuff. So if you want to be in the know of when that stuff comes out, just hit that subscribe button for the channel content, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and keep checking out the website. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and I am being counted out.